Hello, guess what just came in the mail? We're gonna do an old school unboxing. This is the Pavo Pico batch 2, or version 2. What happened was that BetaFPV released the Pavo Pico, and it turned out to be really popular, way more popular than they expected, and they sold thousands of it within the first month. And so they had to do another production run really quickly, and they took the opportunity to make a couple of changes in this second production run. Even though this thing is only like 2 months old, we already essentially have a version 2 of it. I'm hoping this is the version 2. I purchased this off of AliExpress for $100, and while it still mentions everything about version 1, I saw some review pictures of people who have received theirs, and they were receiving version 2s. So hopefully this is a version 2, and I'll show you guys what the difference is between them. The reason I bought this from AliExpress was because they did have a lot of coupons going on and stuff, and so this ended up costing me just $80 compared to the standard $100 or so this costs. But we'll see if that comes to bite me. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to tell from the outside of the box whether or not it's a version 2 or not. Let me just show you the barcode there. Let's see what we get in the box. All right, let's take a closer look at what we got. So, random hardware, antennas, 3D printed camera protector. What is this? A USB board, spare props. This is all standard stuff that came in the version 1 as well. Here's the UV filter. This is one of the reasons why I really like the Pavo Pico, because if you were to buy this separately, it would cost $5 to $10. Same thing with the battery. Most drones don't come with batteries, so this would be $10 to $15 on its own. So it's super nice that they throw one in with the quad. And here we go. Here is the drone. It's kind of haphazardly just thrown in here, but overall it looks okay. And down at the bottom we have 2 of the O3 unit cages. I assume one is a backup because these do feel kind of flimsy, so it looks like they could break pretty easily. And here is the Pavo Pico, and this is indeed the version 2. And I'm going to tell you guys all about the version 2 and how to tell the difference. The main difference with the version 2 is the flight controller. The stock flight controller is a 1 to 2S flight controller, and they changed it over to this one, which is a 2 to 3S flight controller, which is interesting. And the easiest way to tell which version you have is to look at the little battery pigtail. You can see it's coming out of the drone at this little nub at the back. Back here is the USB port that's coming out the back. On this little tab that goes out of this corner of the flight controller, and that's where the battery lead also mounts at the top. And over here we see this is the O3 air unit connector, and if you follow this cable down to the flight controller, it's a little hard to see, but you can see it plugs into a plug on the flight controller as well. So those are the easiest ways to tell if you have the version 2. The version 1 flight controller is completely square. There is no little tab that kind of sticks out like that. And also the O3 air unit connector. This side still has a connector, but the other end on the flight controller, on the version 1, it's just soldered on. On the version 2, you can tell there is the connector there. So if you don't want to use an O3 for whatever reason, you could just take off that connector. I think they did that to speed up the assembly process, because otherwise someone would have to solder that by hand. So yeah, that's a quick and easy way to tell the difference between the version 1 and version 2, or batch 2 of the Pavo Pico. Like I said, they changed the power requirements a bit. They changed the speed controllers from a 12 amp to a 20 amp all-in-one. So you should get a little bit more headway there, less chance of stuff burning out if you like land this in grass and you're trying to take off from grass or something and the props are stuck. And one really important change they did to this new flight controller is that now the O3 air unit is powered by a regulator. A 9-volt, 2-amp regulator is now on this to provide stable power to the O3. On the version 1 flight controller, the O3 was powered directly by the 2S LiPo. Now the O3 air unit can be powered directly by a 2S LiPo just fine, but just barely. I think it has a cutoff voltage of about 7 volts, so if you drop below 7 volts, the O3 has a pretty good chance of browning out. You lose video feed, and that's an issue on a 2S power-hungry little whoop like this, because we're already pushing the limits of this battery and this power system. You only get 3 minutes of flight time, and a 2S LiPo at 7 volts is 3.5 volts per cell. A lot of people usually fly at that level and lower. I think what was happening was people were flying their original Pavo Pico like a traditional 2S whoop. They were flying it below 3.5 volts a cell. That would be below 7 volts total. And I think that was browning out people's air units and causing people to crash. And so that's why this version 2 of the flight controller has a 9-volt regulator. So hopefully, no matter what voltage this battery is at, the O3 will be getting a stable 9 volts. That is pretty much the only thing that's changed with the Pavo Pico version 2. The flight controller's basically just been updated, boosted a bit, so now it's more reliable. The downside is, I guess it's a little bit heavier. It weighs about 1.5 grams heavier than the original flight controller. It doesn't sound like a lot, but if this entire thing only weighs 100 grams anyways, that's like a 1% increase in weight, so that does make a little bit of a difference. I will also say it's kind of interesting that they chose to update this so fast. I do wonder if it was mainly due to this connector issue, because manually soldering these 6 wires like hundreds, thousands of times by some factory worker must have been pretty annoying. So maybe that's why they changed it to this connector system where they just literally just plug in a connector and that's it. But to change and release the version 2 of this, within 2 months of this being released, like a lot of people don't even have theirs that they pre-ordered. It kind of makes you not want to buy something as soon as it comes out because, you know, the fear of the next version will be right around the corner. And now we know that with BetaFPV, there is no timeline to that. You could buy a quadcopter, a brand new one, you could pre-order it, and literally a month later, they could come out with a version 2 just like this. Now, if you guys want to see more videos on this version 2 Pavo Pico, let me know. This is not sponsored by them. I bought this using my own money. And all the reviews right now out for the Pavo Pico, interestingly, I guess are now outdated because all the reviewers got sent the original version 1 flight controller. So I thought I'd make this video to help show off the version 2 of the Pavo Pico. If you thought this was helpful, please give me a subscribe. That would help a lot. I need to get some funds to get a spare O3 air unit. I only have one, so I guess I'm gonna have to rip that out of my 5-inch quad and slap it on here and bench my 5-inch quad for now. It would be really cool if I could get a second O3 air unit. Hopefully the price on that drops when they release the O4 air unit or something like that. But anyways, there you go. Thanks for watching. This is the first look at the version 2 or batch 2 of the BetaFPV Pavo Pico.